Hey there, everybody. It's RCK. I hope you're having a great day today. I want to go ahead and bring you this next national overview for this Friday. Um, I will go ahead and tell you that I do have plans for a future multiplayer game that I consider putting on this channel. I believe it's going to be a lot of fun and it's definitely something to look forward to. I haven't decided on a day yet which I will put it on, but it will be in the future definitely. I just want to make sure that we're far enough ahead in the game where people can't go back and check and see what I'm doing, of course. So let's go ahead and get started in this national overview. We're going to be looking over an EA nation, being EA Hinnom, Sons of the Fallen. So let's go ahead and take a look at their national features. Okay. Of course, it's going to be a very giant nation. If you notice here, these units are going to be a lot larger. Now everything's going to be either size 3 or higher. Looking at our next best thing here, let's go ahead and look at these magic paths. Now you're going to have every magic path here except for fire, earth, astral blood, air, nature, death. You're going to have everything but water, I believe. I might be forgetting something off the top of my head, but I don't think so. Weak priest. The highest you'll be able to recruit is going to be holy twos. Can perform blood sacrifices. It's kind of a, if you've never played with it before, it's just kind of a, what's the word? Just a way to get additional temple checks whenever you can perform these at temples. I think whenever you guys just heard that mess just being dropped on the floor, I have some pets of mine. I have actually have a bunch of pets, but those are my pet rats. They're just throwing their little nesting things out for some reason, probably hiding their food or something that we just fed them. Um, After this, we're going to go ahead and start looking at the sites for our nation here. We have Mount Herman, and there goes my dog. He's been walking in and out as well. This is going to be a 5 gem site. Um, as far as gems go, this is going to be the only gems you get from your capital. So you're going to have 2 earth, 2 fire, and 1 astral. So really nice, but you're going to have to keep in mind that your capital isn't going to start off generating nature or death. I mean, it's never going to generate that. So you're going to have to send out those early site searchers to go ahead and get them looking for it. Um, Next, we're going to be looking at the Gomorrah. Now, this is going to be your cap only troops right here, but along with that, you're going to be getting 2 blood slaves a turn. Now, we did go over Gath last week, and that is also a very, well, I wouldn't say too blood heavy, but they definitely do have some blood things that you're going to want to look at. Which I can't remember if they got blood slaves from their cap or not, but Hinnom does. So yeah, you're really not going to need them in the early game, but when it comes time for you to start blood hunting and start casting those blood spells that you want to cast, you're going to have a pretty decent bank off. I mean, you're looking at 25 just from your capital itself. You're going to be having around 50 on turn 25, and looking at turn 25, because usually it's going to be more of a mid to late game is when you use your blood slaves. You'll have a nice pile of them. So it's going to be pretty nice to have. So we're going to go ahead and start looking over the units here. And honestly, just from looking at them, this is one of my favorite units, the Enkidu's, because you have an Enkidu slave. The reason why I say they're my favorite, I don't actually make a lot of them, but I just like the way they look. Because whenever I look at them, there's this book I read whenever I was a child. It was like, I think it was called Where the Wild Things Are or something like that. But that's just what it reminds me of in the pictures and stuff. Kind of like a larger man, beast looking thing with horns. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Um, but as far as these go, pretty decent slave units since they have normal or they have higher than normal HP pools, being of 22. They're size 3 units. Yes, their attack skill and defense skill are absolute garbage, but that's really not what you make them for. You make them because they have this slave tag right here, so they don't really get any money. They don't really cost you anything in upkeep. Yeah, they cost you the initial 10, 11 gold, but overall they cost you 4 gold a year, so you divide that by 12, and you're looking at 0.3 gold a turn. So you can have so many of these troops, but overall they are slaves. They're really bad. They don't hit for a lot. All they have are fur, which leaves them with 7 protection. Um, Another big thing about this, since all your units are size 3 and above, and you'll notice this as we go through the rest of the lineup here, if you go to the strength right here and click on it, it will show you things other than strength. It'll show you siege strength. Um, and they're already twice the amount of siege strength just compared to a normal human, because I believe it sets in here. Well, either way, a normal siege strength of a human is 1, and these guys are already at 2, and being a slave unit, you're really going to be able to knock out castles really fast with this nation, because I'm almost positive it only goes up from here. So let's go ahead and head over to our next unit then. And this is going to be the start of the Horites, and it's just another type of race that's in their military kind of in a way. You can read up here what units you'll be able to recruit, or what kind of units. You have the Horite, the Enkidu, the Avite. I thought you had one more, but I can't. And the Raphite. Yep. So we'll be looking at the Horites next. Now with the Horites, yes, they're going to have really, really low protection since they have no armor. They're basically just wearing a loincloth. But the really good thing about these guys, 25 hit points. They have low magical resistance, so that's unfortunate. But these guys do have a pretty decent morale, actually, especially compared to the slaves that we showed just previously. These troops will all be fire resistant, cold resistant, wasteland, mountain. I forgot what that icon was for a second. And they'll have dark vision 50, so they won't be as penalized in darkness or in caverns and things like that. A lot of people will not really notice where they're having battles a lot of times. So a lot of times you can get away with essentially casting darkness if someone takes a fight in a cave, and which I try to keep an eye out at all times for. Um, Really average attack and defense skill. Nothing really to write home about right here. The only big thing about them is when they do finally hit something, they're going to be dealing around 28 damage, and that's going to be really, really high. So not much of anything can really protect you against that. So not much to say. Really hard hitting units. Don't expect them to live for long, even though they have 25 HP because they have such slow prot. But we'll go ahead and go on to the next unit. This one has a little bit more utility than your last ones do, just because they're carrying a net. Now they're going to have the same tags just as the last one right here: dark vision, fire, ice, or cold resistant, attack skill, defense skill. Still pretty below average, if not average. Same protection, same size. I think I have one more hit point. Same morale, same magical resistance. Not really much. But the things that really set this troop aside versus the other one, yeah, they have a spear, which is going to do some pierce damage, but when you have blunt damage being at 28, you really don't need to deal pierce damage. It doesn't matter as much at that point. But the good thing they have is going to be a net. Now, I don't believe I've talked to you guys about this in the previous overviews. I might have in the very first one, but I'll go over a net again. So there's certain sizes that you can throw, or certain sizes can't have a net thrown on them. I believe it's size 5 and above, so size 5 and 6. And I know if you're strong enough, you also can't have a net thrown at you. So if you hover over these right here, they will have things at the bottom of the screen that will basically kind of give you little details to them. I mean, not always will they tell you everything, but they will share a little bit with you. So if you look at the bottom, you have size 3 and 4 have a chance to negate. Size 5 plus always negate, what I said. Strength 15 plus has a chance to negate. And strength 35 plus always negate. So everything below those numbers are definitely going to be, won't be able to negate it at all. They're just going to be frozen there essentially, since they'll be netted. You can only use this weapon once per battle. But if you make a large number of these guys, you're going to be able to get a lot of nets out. Not too much other than that to look at it. And I want to skip over this Avite Spearman and just finish up with the Horites here. So you have a Horite champion. One more morale, same magical resistance, 7 protection, 2 more hit points, same strength, basically same attack and defense skill. Nothing much to say. They do 1 more damage. Not too much. Basically the same kind of troop compared to your regular Horite, but this one has a little better stats. Looking at the strength there, I remember I told you you're gonna look at siege strength and we going up. Because last time we saw it was 2. I believe just around all the Horites have around 3.2 siege strength. So I mean, this is gonna be about 3, 3.2 human troops just for one. Um, so pretty good cost to siege strength ratio there. So next we're going to start looking at these Avites here in your troops. Now, as far as Avites go, I prefer the Spearmen, and there's also going to be one more I kind of like just for fun to mess with. Just because the Spearmen, yeah, they have pierce damage and stuff, but they also have a Javelin they throw. And since these units have such high strength, those Javelins are really going to deal a lot of damage. Um, just looking at, I mean, these decent protection. It's not too bad. Natural resistance is a little bit higher than normal. Morale's 12, so that's decent. Like I said, siege strength's gonna be a little bit higher, so they're gonna be around 2.3. So pretty good, pretty good. I believe because they have a shield here. No, maybe it works against them actually, but they have decent defense skill actually. It's kind of surprising. So not much to say, just a spear and javelin unit. So we'll look at the Avite Light Infantry next. Basically the same thing. The only difference are going to be the cost of the resources and recruitment points. Actually, I'm not entirely sure recruitment points. I'll double check that right in a few minutes. But you notice they do have 4 less protection, same attack, same damage, I believe same strength. So it's really if you want to pay for that extra protection or not. And sometimes it comes in handy, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, same recruitment points, just more resources. But that's really only 2 big differences between those troops. Next, looking at the Avite infantry. Here we're going to be looking at the Avite swordsmen. Um, they're okay. I wouldn't make them as much because I would prefer to have the javelins, but that's just me. But as far as a swordsman unit, you have a much better lineup later on that I'll show you throughout. Basically same stats as spearmen. The light infantry, like I said, of course, will be light, so he'll have 4 less protection, but this unit's just going to have a broadsword here. So not too much to say about him. So we'll go ahead and go up to this heavy archer. So since the strength is so high on this unit and it's using the great bow, they're going to have a 50 length weapon. So they're going to shoot 50 squares away, or a range of 50. Let me say that instead. And they're also 12 ammunition. Yeah, they might run out of ammunition during the battle, but they're going to be dealing a lot of damage, and they're going to be shooting from far away. So you can almost think of this as like your artillery unit, and maybe you can cast something like flaming arrows or something like that, or really even add on to it. Strength of giants, a lot of things you can do with it if you want to, but this is more of a for fun style thing. I wouldn't. I think you could build much better armies than using heavy archers, but it could be a lot of fun to play. 17 protection here, so pretty high protection. Size 3, 24 hit points. Strength are still going to have high siege strength. So that's, like I said, it's going to be in all your troops. Really, really low defense and attack skill, because when you think of an archer, archers really don't ever get into combat. I mean, you want them to shoot their bows, and that's really all you want them to do. So whenever they do come in contact with something or an enemy, they're more than likely going to die, but they're going to be able to deal some damage back if they can hit them. So there is that. So let's go ahead and look at the next unit here. You have your hornblower. Now this is going to be a standard unit, so whenever you put them in a squad, you're going to get +1 morale of that squad. Another cool thing that this unit has, it has a siege bonus of 5. So if anyone doesn't know, I'll go over that real quickly. It says this unit reduces the defense of a besieged castle by an additional amount. Meaning, whenever we click over on the strength and check that out, it's going to have a 7.3 siege strength. Now that is pretty darn good for a 35 gold unit that you might just throw in one every squad just to get an additional +1 morale. But other than that, other than the siege strength and the standard right there, I wouldn't really call home about them otherwise. They're not, you wouldn't ever make an army of these guys, is what I'm meaning. but throwing a couple extra in can definitely help out. Now, I do want you to know that whenever you put these units in a squad, it only counts for one. So you can only ever get +1. You can't put 3 of them into the same squad and they get +3. It doesn't quite work like that. Going over to our next unit here, and I believe this is actually, no, we do have one more Avite troop after this. This is going to be your Dawn Guard. Now I can definitely see you using these troops later on. They're actually really well, or work really well. Um, Attack skill 12, defense skill 16, strength 15. So they're going to have 2 to 3 siege strength, 25 hit points, 14 protection, high magical resistance, higher than normal morale. So really good looking unit here. And on top of that, they have a Dawn Blade, which means they have magical weapons already attached to them. And these are troops that can be recruited anywhere. So you really won't ever have to worry about taking magic weapons on your bless. And also, I mean, you really don't have to worry about it at all because, I mean, these units are just really good at doing that. And if you're looking for a core unit in armies, yes, you're going to have other sacred, you're going to have thugs and super combatants as well. I believe this would be more of a core unit if you're looking for it. But overall, I think this is going to be a really good unit. Let's go on to our next one. Pretty cool looking unit here. A lot of people, or a lot of nations don't have chariot. Well, yeah, I'd say a lot of nations don't have chariots. But it's going to be a size 5 unit. So really big, really expensive here. Gold intensive, resource intensive, and recruitment point intensive. Decent map move. Just saying that sometimes they can move 2 provinces. That's the only reason why I say that. They have protection of 16, so it's going to be really nice. Morale, magical distance, and it's alright. Defense skill 14 is nice. Don't really have to worry about the attack skill as much. 2.3 siege strength. The really big thing about this unit is trample. Now, I don't remember the exact numbers. I remember I looked it up, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But what happens with this unit, instead of attacking with their weapon, I'll go ahead and read it. This unit charge straight into the enemy ranks and trample anyone who is not quick enough to move aside. Trample can only be used against smaller targets. Elephants can trample horses and humans, but they cannot trample dragons or other elephants. So this unit here is going to be able to trample everything size 4 and lower. So you won't be able to trample other size 5 units, of course. But normally enough, you really won't have to really bother with size 5 units, especially in the way I plan on using them and showing you guys later. But you just have to make sure and keep an eye out for it. But as far as the first year goes, I wouldn't make any of them past the first year. I wouldn't necessarily say they're bad after the first year, but their level does really drop after the first year because I mean they're not too hard to deal with. People definitely can figure things out pretty quickly with them, but they're definitely going to be a really good unit to start off making. So I mean, yes, I can see anyone making these later on, putting them in like an attack rear on the side type unit, and really kind of sneak them around and attack rear units, of course. And I can that you can make a couple of them later on if you want to, and that's up to you. I could probably do that. Just make 3 or 4, maybe 5, so you kind of get away from having any morale penalties and checking any or having any checks before you really want them to. But yeah, that's something you can do later on as well. So next we're going to be looking at your recruit, your capital only sacred, being the Raphite warrior. So as you can already tell, this is a really strong and expensive warrior. And then this is just a single unit, not even a commander. 130 gold, 53 resources, and 29 recruitment points. 55 hit points, a size 5 unit, so the largest other than the chariots, this is the largest we've seen as well. 22 strength, so they're moving up to around 4.8 siege strength per unit. Decent attack skill, pretty high defense skill, high magical resistance, high morale. They also carry a Dawn Blade, so they have a magical weapon, and they also have the ability to gore things, so they'll have 2 attacks per square since they're size 5, and if anyone doesn't know, a single square can only hold 6 or a total of 6 for units. So size 2 humans, you can fit 3 to a square. Size 3 Enkidu slaves, you can fit 2 to a square. These Graphite Warriors, you only fit 1 to a square, because if you tried to fit another, of course, it's too much. If you had a size 1 unit, they could have fit into the square with the Graphite Warrior, but other than that, nothing else is going to be able to fit in there with him. Protection 15, so pretty decent protection as well. Map move 16. I highly doubt you'll be able to move twice. Maybe sometimes you can, depending on what provinces you're moving in and out of. So really, let's get into the meat and potatoes here of this unit. Sacred, you'll be able to put a bless on him. Fire resistant. And this next part is something odd, and I don't know, I just think it's odd to have both of these tags to them. So they need not eat, so they don't need any supplies. They're not going to starve, they're not going to run out of supplies. Wasteland survival. And they'll have gluttony 10, so they consume more supplies. So you have a tag saying they consume more, but at the same time don't need to eat. So I don't know why. And then we'll get these two right here, which are well, the last 3 are, but more so these two, which being really, really bad tags. You'll have population killer. So every one of these units will kill 20 population every turn, every month. So just let's try to think of that into a little bit more perspective, or a little different perspective here. So say you made 5 of them, and they're just sitting in the province. Well, they're going to eat 100 population from that province every turn. And I'll go ahead and go to the next tag, being causes unrest. So they'll cause 10 unrest for those 5 units every turn, a total of 10. So you really don't want these guys sitting in your capital, because what's going to happen, your unrest is going to go up, they're going to eat population, and then because unrest is going up, it's going to decrease the amount of money you make in that province they're currently in, so you'll be making less money from it. And then on top of that, the population will be dropping, so you'll be making even less money from it. So you really have to be careful and mindful of where these guys are at all times. I found that a way you could deal with that is you can move them into a wasteland or a swamp and let them go ahead and eat all the population. It's really no big deal if they're really just sitting in one place, if you're not at war or anything, of course. If you decide to have like a peaceful few turns, but normally for this nation, you're going to be looking to be at war, because these troops are going to be a lot better in enemy provinces than your own provinces. You just don't want them sitting around and eating your own income up. That's essentially what I'm trying to say here. So let's go ahead and go to the commanders. I just want to talk about their sacred, since it is a pretty unique sacred, and it has some pretty unique tags that you don't see too often. So looking at our first commander, we have an Avite Scout. So this is just going to be your average giant size scout, if you ever need to make one. I would recommend that you make if you can find them, of course, 25 indie gold scouts, just because they're cheaper. I believe their upkeep is cheaper. I believe they might even have more stealth on them as well, because I mean, how good can a giant size unit actually be stealthy? Um, so pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. Next one is just going to be your average 80 leadership commander here. So pretty decent. They're all going to have a morale bonus. You can lead up 3 separate squads. So it's okay. It's okay. It's definitely a commander you could use. Not too much to say about them. Now, here you're going to have 2 separate priests. They're both going to be holy ones. I'll look at the first one here. Now, it's going to be a gold cost of 65. But you'll have to notice that this unit has 0 leadership. But it is going to be a holy one. And I do believe with upkeep of 26, and we'll remember 26 and 65. Now, I do believe they do have a place in your army. But I'll go into talking about that a little bit more once I show the second one. One's a woman, one's a man. Um, Gold cost of 70, morale 10. Well, morale doesn't matter as much. Leadership of 10, so this one's going to be able to lead troops around. But in all honesty, it's also cost 2 more gold per year. It's kind of like you could use the other one, get 5 gold off and a little extra upkeep off to kind of go with the armies if you need something blessed. With this unit, well, obviously they can be leading their own groups. So really not much to say. Just 2 different choices you have, but you always be mindful of which one you're making. You don't want to accidentally say, "Oh crap, I made the wrong one." When it comes time for you to move something or something like that. So not too big of a difference, but it's really just a leadership thing there. Where was I at? Okay, so now this is going to go ahead and start our mage lineup here. It's going to be these 6 units. Looking at the first one here, you have the Horite Shaman. Now it's going to be a 90 gold unit, being 2 resources, 2 recruitment points. Okay, no big deal. So protection 7, really not that well because all he's wearing is furs. But you have some really, really great paths you can get from this unit. You have Earth 1, Death 1, and Nature 1. Now you have the Earth crosspath on many other units in this nation. Now the only thing about Death is that this is the only unit you can actually random, or I wouldn't say random because when you just buy it, you don't have to random into it. This is the only Death access that you have for Hinnom unless you take it on your Pretender. So really big deal. I highly recommend getting one of these guys out early and go ahead and start site searching. Next, you have Nature 1. Now, you will have another Nature Mage that we will go over in a minute. But since you're already site searching Death, it's also good to really get the Nature. Go ahead and start on level 1s on that. And will also boost your early Earth income into the mid game if you go ahead and start early, because you're going to be making a lot of Earth equipment, things like that. Their in-adept researchers really, really low, apparently. I didn't know they took 6 off. So they're only going to be researching 5 apiece if you take normal scales. If you took Drain, of course, they'd be only researching 2 apiece. So kind of interesting. Fire resistant, cold resistant, supply bonus because they have that Nature 1 tag. Dark Vision 50. Now, something that's really, really nice about this unit is it's really thuggable unit. And when I say that, they can cast really, really nice spells. And on top of that, they have a full equipment slots here, or they have all equipment slots here they can fill up. So with Earth 1, you can cast Iron Skin, you can cast Temper Flesh, 2 really, really good thug spells. Death 2, you can cast things like Skeletal Body, Horde of Skeletons, things like that. You have to put a gem on them, of course. With Nature, you can cast things like Protection. You can cast things like, it's on the tip of my tongue. You can give them a gem, I believe, and cast Personal Regen. Since they have 25 hit points, they'll be healing 3 a turn. So just really, really good thug paths here for this unit. And being so cheap, sure morale is kind of high, but that's because he's not a holy unit. But I'm almost positive if you have the right research at the time, and you can definitely raid with this unit here. It's going to take anywhere. I'm almost positive it can take 10 PD out, or maybe even more than that, depending on what kind of PD is there. So really, really nice unit here. So let's go ahead and start looking at some of the researchers that you're going to have. The Ami. So 120 gold. These are going to be expensive because this is going to be your main researcher, and I believe this is going to be the most out of everything that you make, or as far as mages go, you're going to make the most of these. So they have Fortune Teller 15, so they'll make sure nothing really bad happens in the province that you've secured and pretty much place castles in, because you're going to want these guys researching at home. While also, you're also going to be carrying a large amount of well, I wouldn't say a large amount. You're going to be carrying certain ones with you in the armies, because this unit is going to get a lot of different random paths here. And almost every one of these are going to be useful. astrals can obviously cast astral buffs, but to make your strong sacreds, things like ethereal, stuff like that, they can cast earth buffs on them, which is going to be really, really nice. There's a handful of air buffs in. Off the top of my head, there might be a handful of fire buffs as well. Fire, I believe, is going to be your least path that you're going to want because at least with the air, that's going to be your only air access. So you're going to be going out and site searching with these units just to really secure that up. And every one of these are going to be at level 2, so a really, really nice level for these guys. Now, if they were split up, like you would have a 100% chance of these, and then you had another line here of the same things that had a 100% chance of them, and they're both being only level 1s, and they got different paths. That would really, really be bad. I think that having these 2 levels per one is going to be really nice because every Earth you can make Earth boots, push them up to Earth 3. Later on, you're going to have units that can make, like, I don't think, it might be Astral 2, maybe Star Shine Caps, but it might be Astral 3. But either way, you're going to easily be able to go up a little bit higher than that. And I think you'll have access to level 3 fire, so you can go up to level 4. So pretty interesting. Another decent thing, I guess I can talk about upkeep. It's going to be kind of high for these guys as well. 96 gold a year. So off the top of my head, 96 divided by 12, that's going to be 8. So 8 gold a turn for every one of the, well, yeah, 8 gold a turn for every one of these guys you make. So they're definitely going to be raising that upkeep by a lot, but as what's the best thing you have to work with? They only have a research ability 9, so kind of low, but it's okay. It is what it is, you know. Next, we're going to be looking at the Acha. This is going to be a really, really nice unit. Now, if you noticed before, you already have an increase of 40 gold for this unit, and that's why it's not going to be your main researcher. Also, the the upkeep cost for this is going to be more. It's going to be over 10 gold. It's like 10.6 maybe, 10.7, something like that. The really good thing about this unit, actually it has a few good things. It has the Nature 2, so every one of these units can cast things like Enlarge, they can cast things like Protection, they can cast things like Regeneration when you give them a gem, because I believe Regeneration is a level 3 nature spell. And they can cast that onto your sacreds, either your super combatant commander sacreds or your Graphite warrior sacreds. So or they can also cast Enlarge as well. That's another big thing they can cast. So just thinking about that. So you have a size 5 unit, about 55 hit points or something, I believe. You cast Enlarge, and then you cast Protection. So you have, at that point you have about a 70 to 71 HP Graphite. He'll have around 20 protection because his natural protection got raised, and he'll be size 6. And then on top of that, these units will have a supply bonus, which isn't a big deal for Raphites, but maybe for the rest of the army that's walking with them. And then they'll have Healer too. Now this is a really, really nice tag that not many nations get. So this unit will have ability to heal other units in the same province automatically. So regardless of what affliction it is, some of them do take longer than others, I believe, because I think feeble-minded might take a couple turns, or the chance of it happening might be lower, maybe. But what this means is it's going to heal about 2 afflictions every turn. All your units being giants, they're going to take afflictions. You're going to have a lot of HP, they're going to take a lot of hits, they're going to have... So that means there's going to be even a higher chance of them getting afflictions. And these guys are absolutely great being Healer 2s, let me tell you. It's because eventually, I mean, your units get crippled, they lose eyes, they get their arms chopped off, all different kinds of things happen, and this just gets rid of it, basically making them a brand new unit. And probably since they've gone through a couple battles, they're going to have some experience on them, making them even better. So really, really great unit. You're going to use them to buff up your sacreds or other units that you want. So I believe it's going to be one one of your better mages. I mean, of course, these guys are great too, and these guys will be great. But this one's going to put in a lot of work for sure. So next off, we're going to be looking at some of our size 5 Raphite type Orpheum, I'm not sure, size units here. So you are going to be, in a way, a Blood Nation. You do have recruitable Blood ones, which are going to be really, really nice. You do have a few randoms here, which these can come in handy as well. But you're not going to be wanting these guys as researchers. You're going to be wanting to make a handful of these guys, sending them off to a province and start the blood hunt, preferably with a Sanguine Dowsing Rod, which is going to be in Construction 4. So you're looking at 50 hit points, so they definitely are. They are HP pulls. 250 gold. These guys are going to be expensive, and that's going to be one of the various reasons. There's going to be definitely more than one on why these guys can't be your researchers. They will be fairly expensive as well, as far as morale goes. What was I thinking? Pretty high magical resistance here. I forgot about that part actually. Really, really low protection. Like I said, they're just wearing robes. It's nothing to call home about. They do have high leadership though. Might be useful, but I highly doubt it. You really don't want these guys leading troops as much. They are Holy One priests, so they can bless themselves if need be. Fire resistance 6. But they do have these two tags down here, just like the Raphite warriors. And they're actually population killer 20 and unrest 2, so they're going to be just as harmful to the province they're in as the Raphite warriors. So it brings you to an interesting crossroads here, where you want these guys to blood hunt, but not only do they kill population even faster, they cause additional unrest added on to the unrest already caused by blood hunting. So if you're able to, or if you're lucky enough to have an indie blood mage, I would recommend you using them instead of these guys. But these will be your go-to if you don't. So this as long as you have access, I guess that's really all that matters. They do have horns like you saw some of the other Raphite warriors have. And they have a sensor here, which is an interesting poison damage, armor negating, and it's an area of effect damage, so the opposing units won't really be able to apply the really high defense skills if they have them. Say like elves or something like that will have like 18 or more defense skill. That's really not going to work well against them. Or I wouldn't say it wouldn't work well. It's going to work well against them. So not too much other than that to say about them. I mean, you could use these guys as thugs. I can definitely see. I mean, you can cast Fire Shield, Fire Protection. You can cast Iron Skin, Tempered Flesh. You can cast Astral Shield, Body Ethereal. And they can be pretty decent thugs also. So we're going to go up to our next unit, being the Ball. So very, very expensive. 455 gold. Of course, you're going to notice that their upkeep is going to reflect that as well. They're still Holy Ones, so I was surprised they weren't at least Holy Twos, but it's okay. These are going to be your mages, these Blood 2 mages. They're going to be casting your higher blood spells. I believe you have the way that you have to summon Seer for this nation, because you do get that national spell. It's going to be a Blood 2, and not enchanted. It's going to be a Blood 2 blood spell, and it's going to cost you around 23 slaves, and you're going to be able to get 5 out of them. Now, if you remember in the Gath video that I went over, that spell was a little bit different. Now, that spell was going to be, you're going to get 2 Seer for 8 blood slaves, so it's going to be 4 per. Whereas for this spell that Hinnom is going to have for their nation, it's going to be 5 for 23, so it's going to be 4.6 per. So overall, yes, you're not getting as nice and bang for your buck for this, but it's going to be a lot more mage turn efficient. So pretty nice, pretty nice. 15 research, but these guys are also going to be also causing more unrest than the last ones do and killing 50 population. So you definitely you don't want these guys sitting around researching. And if you do have them sitting around researching, I would go and put them with the rest of the Raphites in their little wasteland or swampland province that they have completely destroyed. So you don't hurt any of your really nice provinces that you would like to keep a steady income from. Now they do have a chance to get 3 of these 3 paths now. I will say just about every one of them, I mean, going up 3 is going to be great. Earth 3, you can cast Legions of Steel on yourself, as long with Temperate Flesh and Iron Skin. So really going to be able to really have really high protection. Like I said, Body Ethereal, Astral Shield. You have a couple more things. These guys can teleport. Really nice. Fire 3 is going to be okay. It's not as good as the Earth or Astral, so you have to keep that in mind. And you have a 10% chance to get another random. Be nice to go up to Blood 3. Astral, well, I mean, at that point, you could get a Fire Astral Crosspath or a Fire Earth or, anything, or go up to 4 Earth or 4 Astral, 4 Fire. If you get into a cross path like that, I mean, that might actually be really nice. I mean, having an Earth 3 with 1 Astral is going to be really nice. That'll probably be one of your best cross paths you can get there. So, not too much other than that to say. Hit point 66, so pretty high hit points. You could thug these guys as well if you wanted to, but I would recommend having some casters follow them on a cast. They'll have cast certain spells and then on retreat. So that would be really nice. 4.8 siege strength, but I really don't think you'll be sieging too often with these guys. So that's going to bring us to our last sacred here, being the Melkart. Now, I had to look up how to say this name because I believe that's the way you say it. That Q kind of turns into a K, but maybe Google's lying to me. I'm not entirely sure. So I'm going to call them Melkarts. So really, 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 really good Raphite commander here. Basically, your warrior commander for Raphites. 69 hit points, 485 gold cost, 101 resources, and they'll take 2 turns to recruit. Now, I believe these balls also, yeah, the balls also took 2 turns to recruit. I've forgotten to mention that before. Size 5 units, 19 protection already without any magic items on them. Magical resistance of 18, that's really high. 15 morale. Really, really good leaders. If you decide to lead armies with them, I mean, you can also use them as super combatants in a way, but I mean, you can also super combatant the commander, so he can do just about everything, Plus 3 morale is going to be really nice to any squad that you have. Other than that, looking at this, high defense skill, high attack skill, high strength. So every one of these that you're going to buy are going to be blood 3s. It's going to be really, really nice to have. You can cast some really nice blood spells with this, especially self-buff bluff spells. Blood spells. Sorry, I'm messing up my words a little bit. Let me take a sip of water real fast. It's so hot in my house. Before I started this, I went and made a glass of water filled up with ice, of course. And just now, from me sitting down and starting this video, all the ice in the glass is melted, so maybe 30 minutes that stuff is out of here. Yes, they're going to be priest level 1 units, so they're going to be able to bless themselves. It's going to be really, really nice if you ever send them out alone. On top of that, they're going to be getting some of the same cross path or same possible paths as the other mages you were having before. And fire is going to be, of course, like all the other ones said, fire is going to be your least favorable. But earth and astral are going to be really, really nice. And you can easily put an extra or a buffer, not buffer, God, what am I thinking? An item booster, and turn these guys into teleporting super combatants. On top of that, I mean, you could put a item on them or something for Earth, and if you wanted to use a gem, maybe cast like Earthquake or something, but situational, I know. So sacred units, of course, and they're going to have Fear 5, so they're going to really start scaring units away, so that's going to be really nice. You could definitely use items that give you awe with this, or maybe even take awe on your list if you're interested. That's really focusing on using these guys in particular. Actually, I don't remember if the Raphaite Warriors have awe, or not have awe, but if they have fear. I don't believe they. Yeah, they didn't. They didn't. I just wanted to make sure. But that's really gonna be a good thing here with this guy because what fear does is going to lower the morale of the units around you, or the enemy units around you. And what awe does is it makes units trying to attack you take a morale check, and if they pass or fail, they will, of course, have the attack or not. So with a lowered morale, it makes it where most of the units won't be able to hit you. So pretty interesting. You have that. Don't forget you have fear. Fire resistant 8, a little bit higher than the rest of your units. Need not to eat, just like all of the other Raphaite units you have. Population killer 80. Now this is going to be the highest population killer that you have, so keep that in mind. You're going to want a handful of these guys for sure, but just be mindful of where they are because they cause unrest 8 per 1 per turn. Blood Searcher 3. They're going to be really good at blood searching for blood slaves, and they are really good at sacrificing. I wouldn't recommend using them for blood slaves, but if they don't have anything else to do, send them to go blood hunt. It's not the worst thing. It's better than just having them sit there. So, a really, really nice chassis here that you can use. I mean, 15 research, that's really irrelevant. I'd highly doubt you'll be ever researching with these guys because they have such better things to be doing. So that was all of the units for this nation. So after this, I'm going to show you, I believe I'm going to go ahead and show you expansion for the first 12 turns. Now, this is something I've tested multiple times over this week, and I've played in a few games as them. This was, I believe, one of the better ones. I believe by turn 12, I hit 28 provinces. Now, keep in mind, now this is not with, there's only one other computer on the map playing. So in a normal multiplayer game, you're going to really be run into borders a lot sooner. So of course you won't be able to expand as well. But it's just what you can do in 12 turns if there's no one around you. That's kind of what I'm saying with that. So it's going to be really, really interesting. Now every time I did this, I was definitely hitting over the 20 mark within the 12 turns. I believe there was one time I didn't. I had just got really, really unlucky and lost my first expansion party to something I shouldn't have even done. I was just testing out. And I think even losing my first expansion party and having to essentially start over and really not expanding until turn 3 or 4, I still got around 14 or 15 provinces, so pretty decent anyway. So we'll go ahead and look at what we have going on here. Now I believe this was like a 28 expansion here, and this was on turn 12 if you look at the bottom of the screen. So that's what you can do in the first year with this nation. I did take a scales build. I took a small bliss. So it has its ups and downs. Now, as far as your expansion parties go, I would recommend making these Horite Shamans for them, just because they're cheaper, they're a little less morale. If their armies die, you can definitely use these guys as site searchers while they're already out there. But I did attempt to do it with all the Ami, just recruiting Ami from turn 1 and sending them out in small groups, just to see if you could, or if you ran into any gold problems throughout the way, because these guys are more expensive. You have to keep that in mind. So I just wanted to see if it was possible, and yes, they do just fine. And a lot of them are actually pretty good, since every, my goodness, I can't click on nothing. Every air random you get can always cast air shield, and I found that normally most of the ways that these guys die is going to be through arrow fire, even though they have the higher HP. Those can cast earth shield. Depending on what your randoms are for your research, you can have alt 2, so these guys can cast stone skin. The fire ones, they're probably more prone to dying along with the astral. I just sent a nature guy out, just start searching, just to kind of show you. I had a few events here happen. I think that might be one event, I'm not entirely sure, but we've already found some nature sites and we found that lab. But really nice. We did find another slave market giving you 3 more, pushing that up to 5 blood slaves a turn. But if you really want an income of blood slaves, you're going to have to blood hunt. You can't rely on sites and you can't rely on your capital. So I believe this was at 28 when I counted. It might have been 27, I'm not sure. But already you can tell we're going to be expanding even farther. And I'll go ahead and look at the battles here. And this is what the groups look like. Not much to them. Mages put to the back. These usually on attack closest. 7 in this one, so that is a larger one. Normally it's around 4 to 5 chariots per group. What did that one have? Yeah, like I said, mages in the far back. These guys either on attack or attack closest. They're on attack too. Something that I came into noticing a lot. Usually, you can deal with barbarians very well as long as there's not 100 of them. I ran into that problem. Yeah, my chariots did do significant damage to those barbarians, but there were just way too many of them for my 4 chariots I was using, of course. Now, if you see what's in this province right here, the blood-hinged druids and the dark vines. Now, there is 2 dark vines and there is 5 blood-hinged druids in here, which I was really surprised. But you come into that contact with this was something that happened a couple turns back. I came in contact with the dark vines and they have fairly high HP, but I would not be able to trample them since they're also size 5 units. And then on top of that, the 5 blood-hinged druids can cast nature spells that are going to stop your chariots. So things are going to be getting free hits on them. So this actually happened twice over my couple of days of testing expansion, that I just ran into these units here and brick walled one of my expansion parties, of course. Other than that, you have to be mindful of cav provinces. Just using as this is a test here. So if you have your chariots up here, they can be on attack closest or attack. Now these guys, if they're on attack closest, maybe they're going to run into the militia or the militia style heavy infantry units first. In the cavalry, they're just going to run right behind them, and they're just going to go hit your mage, and your troops are going to run away because their commander died. Now, a good way to kind of counteract that, you have to keep that in mind when you're going to every province, and you might have to change your scripting a little bit, of course. Put the chariot somewhere around here or the halfway line, and just have them on attack closest. Or you can have hold an attack and put them a little bit farther back. But what's going to happen is the cavalry, regardless of if they're in the back or the front, they're going to charge forward, and they're going to definitely outpace any infantry that's on the battlefield. And with these guys being on attack closest, they're going to fight the cavalry first, making sure that they stop from fighting the commander first. So just a way to kind of stop them in their tracks. But normally enough, the way that all of my, it looks like my commander died on that one, the way that they're all kind of are just attack. I want to keep them in one group so they don't take any morale hits. And commander in the back so that when the archers start shooting, they don't target the commander first, they'll target the chariots. The chariots already have, I believe, 16 protection. So they're not going to really be dealt damage by any of these early age archers. It's not like you're fighting LA crossbows, So pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and look at some of these battles. Let's go ahead and look at this first one. And this is just examples of what the expansion looks like on the battlefield. So this is going to be heavy cav province. And as you can tell, cavalry are size 3 units, so they're just trampling through. And you have your mage doing this random crap back there, being a fire mage, of course. So those chariots have really just dealt with those heavy cav pretty efficiently. And as of right now, I don't even think we even lost one. They're just running them off the field. Let's go ahead and look at battle board. So just 5 Avite charioteers took out 9 heavy cav, 3 mounted commanders, 6 light cav, 13 militia. Yeah, it's not too big a province, but 31 versus 5, being a heavy cav, really efficient expanders. Let's go ahead and look into our next one here. Now this one has a couple more, I believe it's 7, I think. So a much larger party here. And of course you can already tell that they're going to really take these out. Now very interesting that we have a air mage in this. Very rare to have mages like this in the indie provinces, but has some good equipment. I hope we pick any of it up. But yeah, it's just a test game anyway. We're just going to watch them trample through real fast. And my dog laid out on the floor behind me. I think he's just waiting on me to go to bed, I guess. And at this point, all the units are routing. I think they're routing. Yeah, they're routing. But the charioteers are still trampling, so all done with that battle. Not too big. But I will say you have to make sure you pick and choose what you expand into. Now, of course, this one was going to be a slaughter. But, I mean, having 40 or 50 deer tribe, you can expand into that. I mean, very efficiently you can actually, and at the same time take on 0 to maybe 1 loss. Just another average expansion here, 30 some units. I think this is 5. A little bit scarier since they're separated out, but I think we're going to connect and hopefully catch both of these guys right here. Oh, we did not catch them. Scary, but they didn't catch. Hopefully we take that commander out before these guys get to our mage, so be mindful of that. I should have had these guys on attack closest, but with having our mage so far in the rear, it looks like we're going to be able to take out their commanders before the militia gets the mage. Yep, and they're already routing. And we still had a good amount of time before they even reached us. Not a gamble you want to take too often, so make sure they're on attack closest. Hope we don't catch any guys on fire. You can't tell if that hit us or not. Yes, it did. Yikes. But at the end of the day, we didn't lose any. Another small heavy cav. I won't show. Well, I will show this since this is what I explained earlier. It's something I've been testing. Just, yeah, I should have put them a little bit farther back, maybe around here. I think they started here, so put them around here and have them on attack closest. And if you look at that, if they were on attack closest, they would have hit that heavy cav first. So, very unfortunate. That's something I should have changed or noticed, and I just didn't. So just keep that in mind. So what's going to happen here, we're going to trample out these guys. These heavy cav are going to go take out this guy now. Maybe if he was an astral, maybe if he cast body ethereal, or if he was an earth mage, maybe that would have made a difference, but just a air mage, so unfortunate we lost him, yes. It looks like 4 commanders over here. By that point, we took out all these commanders. And then the routing cav run into our charioteers, and they're still running away. And at this point, it's whoever gets off the map first loses. So, since our charioteers They might be a little bit slower than the cavalry. Yeah, they have combat speed of 22, and our charioteers have combat speed of 15. They got off the map first, so they lost. So we still kept the province. I wish I would have had some of the bear tribe. I think it's deer tribe and bear tribe and barbarian expansions to show, and I believe there was an elephant one I did as well. But I just want to show you what it could be at turn 12. I didn't want to stop midway and not show you a full expansion. I will be trying to do this more in the videos. After this, we're going to be looking at different gods that you can use, different possibilities, different blesses you may consider. So let's go ahead and head over to that. Let's quit without saving. Tools, create a pretender god, early age. There goes Hinnom. And we've already gone over this. So I have a couple ideas. The reason why I decided to do this nation next, I had a person on Discord ask me about it, and they showed me their pretender. And of course, you can take awake monsters, and they will expand very well. But I wanted to try taking a scales build, and just want to see the difference between them. And they both expand really well, so that I can't say, oh, this is the better build, because there are definitely other builds you can do. But as far as me playing, I would prefer a scales build. Yes, you can take a really heavy bless with these troops, but overall, I think since they're so gold intensive, you want to take scales. So I'm not saying what he did is wrong in any way or any form, but there are different ways you can do it. And just have to keep that with an open mind when you look at nations. That you don't want to stick with the same thing every time you play. You just want to keep changing up and continue learning, of course. So a whole lot that you can really do with this. Sorry, I took another sip of water there. So for the build that I was showing you, our bless really didn't come in. We didn't even use the bless for the first 12 turns. And I'll go ahead and build the skills that I had. What if I change it? And what I took the divine glyph. Took that up to 6. I took 4 fire, 4 blood, 4 astral. I took attack skill, superior morale. I took magical resistance +3 and +1. No, +2 and +1. My bad. And I took blood surge. So really, really nice. Just a really small bless. Most of this is going to be this right here that's going to really make a difference in your game. +10 recruitment points is not big of a deal. +48% resources, that's going to be really nice. Going to have a lot of nice luck events. The +3 research is going to turn your research 9 expensive mages into at least into a research 12 mage, so it's really going to help you out. Makes them a little bit more worth it, I would say. Oh, you have to take them in prison as well. That's going to leave you with 0 to 9 points, of course. Not too many things you really want to cast. I mean, yeah, sure, you can cast a couple things. You maybe forge a couple boosters or stuff like that. Blood Surge. It's going to be good to have with your super combatants or your sacreds, because, yeah, they're going to kill things, and it's only going to make them better having +3 attack, +3 strength, +1 defense, +1 invigoration. And you can see that in the bottom now that I'm hovering over this. So really nice. If you notice, whenever you're having thugs or super combatants, having high magical resistance is going to be nice, and that's why this is taken right here. We needed something for fire, and since they already have pretty decent fire resistance, why not take more attack skill, of course. Make it even easier for you to hit other units. And superior morale just to get that last 1 fire point in, because of course you don't want to waste anything. I have been in talks with another player for a while about this. Good shout out to Nosy. We talk back and forth about a couple of things every now and then, and he's really enjoys this nation. And I've saw him a game with this. I mean, it's a really nice build he has here. So I'm gonna go ahead and change this up, and we'll take a look at some of the other possible builds I saw. Now, this is something I messed with a little bit, and this is something one of the builds I know someone else took. They took Regen, and they took Blood Bond. I'm not entirely sure on how the scales were. Let me scoot over to my other computer and I will take a look real fast. Alright, I have no idea who sent me that message. um, but I can already assume, I believe he did take Drain too. Ooh. Maybe it was something like this here. I can see someone taking this build for sure. But I do remember him having Drain 2 on it. No, that would take the income down way too low. Wouldn't want that. Yeah, you still have an income boost of 5%, unrest reduction because you still have Order 1. And you have a recruitment point bonus. Resources, you only have an 18% research or resource improvement. So, I mean, that is 40% off of ours. Supplies, 10% increase, not too big of a deal. Only taking growth 2, still going to be nice. And events, you're going to have a lot more events, and your luck's going to be really low, but hopefully those fortune tellers will be able to prevent those, if you remember. So in the provinces that we want to keep, we want to build castles in, of course, we're going to have researchers in them. So those researchers all having fortune teller 15 is going to be really nice. And hopefully we'll protect those high value provinces that we control. Taking Drain 2, I don't like it personally because you now have a 120 cost mage that you will be paying, will only have 7 research a turn, which will also be at around 8 gold a turn costing you for upkeep. So I don't like that. It's going to really hurt your research. But having this bull means you will. I haven't tested what you can make on the first turn, but with the scales build, you're going to be able to do a double expand on the first turn, not first turn, second turn. But you can blind expand with a bull here that has regeneration as long as it's basically in your own dominion, because at that point it'll have its bliss. Blood Bond doesn't really worry as much with the bull, but regeneration is really nice since it'll be regenerating 18, 19 hit points a turn. It also has recuperation, so you won't have to worry about afflictions. Berserker 7 is going to be really nice. It's going to be doing good, and it has trample like we talked about, so you would even be able to trample the chariots. So kind of interesting. So this is definitely a choice you can pick if you don't want to go in prison, you want to awake, you want to try to expand even faster than you already can. This can be definitely a very good unit to use in an early war as well. So lots of things to keep in mind. Now this Blood Bond here, now this is going to be strictly used for your units that you have, your Raphaite warriors. And it's really going to help you out because at that point with this regen Blood Bond combo that you have going on, instead what Blood Bond does is kind of pushes all the damage back, so the first unit is not going to take as much damage. It's going to be split up to the units behind it. So you're really going to be turning the, I think it was 55 HP pool into a much larger HP pool instead, because all that damage is going to be split up. And then on top of that, since your units are regenerating 5 to 6 HP per turn, they're going to be regenerating a lot more, since those units in the back will actually be regenerating damage that the units in front will be taking. So it's a really interesting combo here. So that could be pretty strong. Let's go ahead and look at some other options. I can see maybe going like a type of dormant bliss, but if I went for a dormant bliss, would I want the golden idol or would I want a great sage? Because I mean, yeah, the great sage has some good things with it because I like that it has this inspiring researcher because normally enough, I mean, you can put him in whichever province has the most researchers in it, or you can move researchers to him. But I mean, you have 30 provinces or 30 mages in a province that's researching. I mean, he's going to give you a plus 30 buff on top of whatever else he's doing. So pretty interesting. An idea. I don't know if you can take a scales as well. Uh, no, you're definitely going to have to drop some of these. Something to play around with for sure. Um, Something else you can possibly do with these. What would I do? What would I do? I could honestly see you doing something like I would take that down. Take a very, very wide rainbow bliss, put it on imprisoned. At this point, you'll have decent scales, not too bad. You could drop one, just put it in a higher magic scale here, so pretty interesting. It might be worth. It almost might be worth going up to resource 3 since of how dependent your units are on resources. And I don't know, add major fire, major shock, major cold, revig, mountain survival. I would probably still add major and minor magical resistance. Now, keep in mind that this year, I believe they're undead units, but at the same time, you might not be making as many, and you can just make a Mound King or something to lead them, or a White or something like that. So honestly, you can actually use these death as just undying. Add some more HP to your units, of course. Put major and minor poison resistant, why not? There's no telling what we're going to be fighting, of course. And we can also still throw blood surge on. Now this is going to be a very, very wide rainbow here. Pretty interesting. You're going to have lots that you're not going to have to worry about. So that's going to take you up to 15 poison protection, plus 3 magical resistance, fire and shock and cold, depending on what you're going into, and having revigoration. It's going to be pretty nice. So quite interesting, while also having fairly good scales. Something to think about. Lots and lots of different things you can do with blesses. One thing that I kind of been considering, but it hasn't been something I've quite tested, so it's more of a theory craft I've just kind of been thinking of in my head. But units, I wouldn't say units. Say you have Niflheim or something like that can go into communions, of course, with blood, and our nation can definitely do that as well. Since we have a lot of blood, And we have a lot of astral. So maybe with your astral randoms, your mail card, I don't know, this is going to be really weird. 66, 69. Either with your ball or your mail card astral randoms, maybe you can do some kind of, not, I know they're not called super communions. It's a communion where you're taking damage because your slaves are too fatigued out, but at the same time they regenerate so much health that they won't die, so the rest of your communion masters can cast as many spells as they want to cast. Um, Actually, it might honestly be better to try to do it with these guys. Since they have the blood one, they're much cheaper. You don't want them to be, I mean, you don't want to turn your milk carts or your balls into the slaves. You prefer them to be the masters. 50, I mean, you can increase their hit points by a little bit by different bliss, but doing something like a regeneration bliss, I believe since they go up to 50 some, at that point they'll be getting 6 a turn, and then you use like your achas or something to cast personal regen on them. At that point they'll be going up to 12 HP or regenerating 12 HP a turn. Maybe you can have one of your masters cast summon earth power so they get 1 revigoration as well. Maybe that might be enough. I'm not entirely sure. Those communions like that aren't something that I try too often, but it's something interesting. I don't know. It's something fun. Just some different things you can think of. I probably wouldn't use that pretender there. But having this nation, as you can already tell, you have a lot of options. Don't be caged in by the ones that I showed you. I'm obviously not the best player at this game, but I try to play and have a lot of fun. You have a lot of cool different pretenders. I don't see these taken too often. I see that one every now and then. I really don't ever see these. I see that one every now and then. See those two a good bit. Maybe sometimes the Fountain of Blood. See this one a few times. I mean, some people want to take dragons, have a good time. I see Earth Snake taken if you really want to expand. I like these these down here. That's just me personally sometimes. But for this nation, I mean, I really like the glyph. It's pretty cool. Pretty fun. I've seen some people do some fun stuff. If no one's, I mean, at this point, I'm kind of going off topic. If anyone, I mean, at this point, I mean, if you don't want to watch the video, you can turn it off if you want to. I'm just kind of showing some different pretenders you can take, of course. Now, the Raven of the Underworld, it has Corpse Eater, so every turn you get 15 corpses per month. That's in a province. It's going to turn and give the Raven more hit points. So I've seen this thing up to 500 hit points, something crazy like that. It's just kind of a cool unit. I've taken it once or twice just to mess around, but it's interesting. Now, a lot of these are kind of like Hinnom, Gath, Ashdod specific commanders. I forget what the actual call. Some of these pretenders are only for certain nations, but it's pretty interesting. Lots of fun stuff. So I believe that's going to be it. That last one was just completely theory crafting. Someone else will have to try that out. I doubt I will. So, guys, look forward to the next video next Friday. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Always make sure to reply to everybody, so don't be afraid to say anything. I always always make a lot of new games on the Dominion servers, so don't be afraid to join. It's a really, really fun game. A lot of great people play it. Find a lot of friends. Always a lot of fun. It's really just taking that initial step and going out there and playing, But if you're curious on why I have zero viewed created commanders, I'm playing on my other computer since I have my microphone now. Usually enough, I always play Dominions on my laptop since it's just a lot easier to have around. Um, and I mean, Dominions is a very, very low. What's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't take much to actually run Dominions, so it's really nice. Just about anyone can play it on their computer, just about. So there is that. I mean, yeah, it's still a $40 game, which kind of is really unfortunate. But as long as you just put it on your wish list, I mean, it always comes around. I mean, for the first, this game's been out for a while now, maybe 2, 3, 4 years, maybe. For the first year or 2 years, I mean, I didn't buy the game because it was $40, $50, however much it was, and one day it went on sale for 20, and I picked it up. Played single player for a while. I was already familiar with the game. I played Dominions 4 for a while. Never really played it multiplayer wise. I played with a few friends one time for a llama server game, and that's where you send it back and forth in email. And I mean, they don't particularly like games like that, so they didn't really stick to it, unfortunately. I did have one friend buy Dominions 5. He played maybe one game with me. It is what it is. But along the way, I found a lot of great people I played a lot of games with. I make a lot of games. I make a lot of noob games. So go over, check out the Minions Hub. It's always fun. Everyone's always usually having a good time there. Not a lot of drama. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. Be sure to check out the next video coming out this Friday, or next Friday. Other than that, I will be picking a day to start putting out the videos for the series that I do. So it will probably be midweek, maybe, I believe. That's something I have to think about a lot, and I believe by the time this video comes out on Friday, I would have changed my profile picture. I know in the last, I don't remember if it was the second video I did or the third video I did, someone did mention that, and I was like, yeah, I do need to put a profile picture on there, so I'll be getting that changed. I'm just trying to fill out the rest of this YouTube parts to it, just trying to have a complete channel, so. Alright guys, y'all have a great day. Bye.